A very, very good evening to everyone, or if you're listening to this during the day, very good afternoon. My name's Ed Nichols, and I've spoken to you for a few weeks now about this Here and Now listening service, which is basically being broadcast from Dunstan Activity Centre. We have a virtual hub, and this is part of it. And as I think I've explained, basically this Here and Now listening service is about this kind of hearing, H-E-A-R, hearing you, hearing each other, and listening to each other. The Now says we can set up for you to talk to someone fairly immediately. So I'll give you some contact details at the end if you'd like to speak to someone, either by email or by telephone or face to face or even Zoom, if you prefer that. The important thing I've been stressing over the weeks is that we need, as a community, to see that we can really build our quality of life together if we are prepared to make time to listen to each other and to listen compassionately to each other. Because as we've been saying, I think all of us, I can't think of any exceptions in my life, anybody I know, family, friends, colleagues, that didn't need at some point in their life to be able to talk themselves out to another human being who really cared, or at least showed compassion and could button the lip enough just to listen. And I want to say to you, many of us need the healing that follows that. If you store things up in your heart, your mind, they spill into your emotions and they can bring you down. If you get rid of the things that accumulate within your heart and mind, and I'm thinking of things like worries, anxieties, fears, apprehensions, all of these things, distresses, if we build ourselves up inwardly and with these things, then it gets to a point where it's a huge burden on our heart, on our thoughts, on our emotions, and we feel rather low. And that being the case, our quality of life is pretty awful. Some people, very sadly, they get so depressed that they think, well, what is this life? Is it worth being around? I want to encourage you that if any of these things apply to you, not necessarily all the time, but just some of your life, it's good to have an opportunity to talk to someone. There are men and women who will talk with you, and basically what they will do is to encourage you to speak. All of their words will be for you in 1 hour to speak for 55 minutes of that hour. And at the end of that hour, for about 5 minutes, the person listening to you might suggest a few things. But basically, it's about listening to others in our community. I've been saying to you that to listen to one another is a way of bringing healing. If you're burdened by life, by worries and things, fears, and you have an opportunity to get it all off your chest, out of your system by talking to a sensitive person who listens to you, then just getting it out of your system can bring healing, can bring peace to your mind, your heart. You've heard the expression, haven't you? A problem shared is a problem halved. And so if you have a lot of opportunity to get your difficulties out, then it is that you could be a lot better on the inside than perhaps you are at different times. And may I say this to you, that this is not for people who can't cope with life. All of us have times in our life when we need someone to listen to us. All of us. I don't think there are any exceptions. No one is that strong that they don't need somebody else to listen to them when problems and difficulties and challenges accumulate. It can be things like, bereavement. That sometimes, I find with people bereaved that sometimes that bereavement can last an awful long time. and basically their loved ones wouldn't want it for them. They wouldn't. The loved ones wouldn't want them to be, so grieved inwardly that they lost all desire for life. But again, talking it out of your system is the key. Depression, I believe, can be healed by medication. Treated by medication. I don't think that inward problems can be touched by medication. I think it can help in the short term, but if there are specific things within us that we're afraid of or anxious about, I think we need to talk those things out. Medication can help us in the short term, but in the long term, I think we need to address the issues that make us low, that bring us down, that cause us not to think well of life, and sometimes not to think of ourselves very well either. I always say this, our medical centres are there for our well-being, and I encourage everyone to if you have any problems at all, to register those problems with your GPs in their centres, in Dunstan, the teams, wherever. But what we are providing is not something in the place of that and the talking therapies that they recommend, but rather what we provide is something that might enhance what they do. Enhance it in this way that often, because of the shortage of human resources, you've got to wait a long time for someone to listen to you. Things like getting a community psychiatric nurse, which people have been told they need, can sometimes take a year and longer. Sometimes if you're really needing to talk today, you might have to wait a couple of weeks, 4 weeks, 6 weeks for talking therapies. Whereas what we're looking to provide is an immediate service. So if on Wednesday, which it is today, you're feeling, I need to talk, then we could set up an opportunity for you to talk on Wednesday, today. So that's why it says here and now. But let me just re-emphasize a few things. We are trained in counselling, and also a very important part of that is the ability to listen. We are trained in that, so we can give to you a time which is with an informed person, so that in the last 5 minutes of that hour they may be able to offer you things which are really useful. So let me just reiterate, all of us need to talk ourselves out at some point. Do very sadly, even if we're in families that love us, sometimes it seems impossible to talk even to those nearest and dearest about the things that really bother us. Perhaps they're too busy to listen, or we don't feel they listen sensitively enough. They don't understand. I don't know what it is, but it just seems to be a fact that a lot of people who need to talk themselves out are not people who are on their own always. They're often in families, surrounded by people in fact, and basically, so this can be for any one of us at particular times in our life, and for others it can be a service we need. This being listened to needs to be something we need to have happen quite a lot for us. We need to be able to talk ourselves out quite regularly. Whatever the case, let's just remember this concept that a community that listens to itself is a community that can heal itself. There's healing in talking ourselves out. It's getting the burdens off our chest, as I said earlier. So let these things please register. I don't know if you saw a couple of weeks ago on the news, but they were piloting in old people's homes this robot. And this robot has been programmed with this old gentleman's background, and so it could ask him questions based on his interests and his background. And I don't know what you think. But isn't it sad that we need to employ robots that are not human, that need to be programmed to provide for someone an ear to listen, someone to listen, someone to talk to. I don't know what you think, but I think that's quite sad. If robots work for people, then who am I to say anything against it? But I think in principle, we would like to think that we could find someone human to listen to us and not have to depend on a robot. And so I want to just mention those of you who may be quite isolated. Do you know, there was a big story in the news about, a year ago, 2 years ago, and it was saying that for many people, particularly elderly people, that the only person whom they heard speak in a day was someone on the television. You know, perhaps a chat show host, the newsreader, or someone like that. You know, and again, don't you think that's rather sad that this box that we plug in is basically, has become to us the ear that we think might listen to us and the voice that speaks to us. It's rather sad, I think. I believe that it is people, human beings, who we need to really listen to us. And I think that even if they're not our family or our friends, perhaps they're even strangers, so long as we are persuaded that they care about us enough to listen without much interruption, I think then that's what we need. And I want to encourage you to consider these things. I think a lot of us who are British, you know, we have this stiff upper lip, you know, particularly men. We think, we can get through this, you know. Man up, they say, don't they? Things like that, man up, you know, and in other words, swallow all your fears and your anxieties and the things that bring you low. Just swallow it all and it'll all get better. Well, sometimes it just doesn't get better. In fact, it gets worse. And men are particularly are vulnerable. All the sociologists and psychologists will tell you that today. The politicians will tell you that. You know that this is a statistic which really quite disturbed me. But for men over 45 and over, the major cause of death is suicide. And I ask myself, why should that be? Why should a man get so low that he thinks the only way out of his depression, out of his problems, is to kill himself? That's really sad, I believe. Of course, the same can apply for women and others too. It's tragic. I know of cases that are in this area where a young man, just in his 30s, ended his life over something rather minor at work, but it just seemed to be the last straw. And you know, I don't think his wife, his children, his extended family have recovered since, and this is now probably 3-4 years ago. You see, these things affect us deeply, and they affect those who love us too. So we must find ways to be kind to each other, helpful to each other, listen to each other, and always be there for one another. Big problems, you know, it's easy to say to someone with a big problem, come back next week, come back next month, or we'll send you a letter. And often that means that for the next whatever period of time that we are not good, we're quite low, and we're waiting for someone to listen to us. This service that we provide is meant to help with that. I want to encourage us to take advantage of it if we need to. And I want to say to you this. Perhaps some of you out there are very skilled at listening. You probably notice yourself in your own life, at work, at home, amongst your friends, that there are those who do all the talking and very little listening, But there are those who have learned the art of listening, that they're very good listeners. And you may be one of those people. A father, a mother, a husband, a wife, a partner, a girlfriend, a boyfriend, a fiancé, a young person, a teenager, and you're a good listener. I want to say to you that it's a beautiful gift. The art of listening means that people can come to you and be heard. Isn't it nice to be heard? I came across, about 10 years ago, a very beautiful young woman, about 14. She was anorexic, quite beautiful. Believed herself to be ugly and fat, and was anything but ugly and anything but fat, but that's what she believed. And basically, in my conversations with her, she said to me one day, I get this dream. I've had this dream since I was a young girl, that I'm amongst all these people and I'm speaking, but nobody can hear me. And I try to speak louder, but they still can't hear me. And I was asking myself, where did this anorexia begin? You know, we are complex human beings, aren't we? We're absolutely wonderfully made, and we're very sensitive too. And I wondered whether the anorexia begun in a little girl who she felt was not listened to, not within our family, not at school, not anywhere. And even in her teen years, she was still getting the same dream. It underlines for us, doesn't it, that we need to be aware of these things, and we need to realize that this simple thing called listening to each other allows people to almost heal themselves by just getting everything out of their system, everything bad, that is. I want to underline in the home as well, you know, husbands, wives, you know, we often love each other, but loving each other means that we will make time to listen to each other. Sometimes husbands, sometimes wives, sometimes partners, girlfriends, fiancés, sometimes we are not good at listening. We've not learned the art of listening. And I believe myself that it's so important. If I was to say this to you, to be honest with you, I'm learning it myself. For example, this is one thing I've learned. You know, fellas, when you know, our wives or girlfriends or partners, whatever, when sometimes they're talking to us about something that's troubling them, this is usually true, that men are fixers. They like to fix things. They like to hear, what's the problem? Okay, that's the problem. Now, here's what you should do, and then you're fixed. That's the end of the problem. Do you know, I don't know how many times I've done that and found that it doesn't work. That actually what a woman is wanting is not you to fix her. She probably knows what to do already. She's wanting to get it off her chest. It's like she wants to take the burden off herself and share it with you or me. So what she really wants is just a good listening to. Rather than you say, well, all you need to do is this, and you won't worry, do that, do this, do the other. You know, that isn't what really they want. And basically, if you are skilled in listening, then you will be a very good husband, a very good wife, a very good partner, a very good girlfriend, boyfriend, fiancé, whatever. And let's not forget our young people and our children, parents, fathers and mothers. Our kids have got to learn things in life themselves that, you know, we can't wrap them up in cotton wool so nobody ever hurts them, nothing unpleasant ever happens to them. It is the way life is, and we have to accept that and not try to change it too much, because that's the way life is. And basically what we've got to help them to do is to be so secure within themselves that they can face whatever life throws at them. I think that's good parenting. And it starts probably with little things. I heard the case of a boy about 8 years old, and he said to this friend, very good friend of mine, he said to his dad, he said, do you know, I like Gary's dad. And this friend of mine says to his son, why do you like Gary's dad, son? He says, because he always has time to listen to you. And this friend of mine said, his words pierced my heart like a dagger, because I realized what he was really saying was, Gary's dad listens to me, makes time to listen to me, and you don't. You know, we fathers, mothers, we never underestimate how important you are to your children. And I don't mean go and buying them the best trainers, the best clothes, and the material things, big presents for Christmas. Do you know, much more important than any of that is that they can find in us very good listeners. Very good listeners. I want to encourage us within our homes, in our home relationships, to learn the art of listening. It's such a wonderful investment in your family and mine. Our grandkids, again. Sometimes the parents are just too busy, we sometimes think, don't we, that we all need to work and we all need to get them more money in and buy more things, have more material possessions. And often, if you really stop the bus on these things, you'd realize that children actually are not really wanting and needing material possessions so much as they need our listening attention. So consider these things. Consider these things. And then if we go outside of the home, and we should all go outside of our homes, because if basically all I care about is myself and my own family, then that is just a wider form of selfishness. In a community, we care about everyone. If you notice, in the streets of Dunstan and in the inner west communities, you'll see people who are on their own. And if you say good morning or hello, it matters to them. If you engage them in conversation and actually get them to talk to you, and you listen, you could have been the high point of their day, their week, or even their month. It's to do with the art of listening and seeing the value of being a good listener. And I hope for us all that we can see that whether it's in the home or outside of the home, whether it's with those we know or those we don't know, that this art of listening can do so much good, so much good. And so let me encourage you. If, like me, you've been around a while and listening hasn't been your thing, whenever too old to learn, I always believe you can teach an old dog new tricks. I really do believe you can. So don't say, I can't change. We can all change if we're willing. And I don't know about you, but I'm learning to listen and learning to put into practice some of the things I've shared with you. If we can be of any use to you, don't think we're setting ourselves up as, the three wise men. We know everything, we've got all the answers. No, we don't. What we do have, I believe, is a caring heart that will compassionately listen to you as you talk yourself out in those times when you need to. I think we have that. And when we are with you, we may just interrupt now and again, or intervene if you like, now and again, and say, tell me a little bit more about that. But our interventions are just to get you to talk more. It's not an opportunity for us to speak. It's just to get you to talk more about something, to go into detail about things you need to get out of your system. And so if you would like to speak to someone, either face to face, or on the telephone, or on Zoom, or by email, then let me give you some contact details, and then you can contact us. My name is Ed Nichols, Nichols. If you wish to email me, you can get me on ed.nichols@live.com. If you want to talk by telephone, or you want me to put you in touch with someone to talk to, if you contact me on 0191 460 4567. If you contact me there, if I'm not there, leave me a message on my answer phone, and I'll get back to you very quickly, and we can fix up either a telephone chat or whatever else you want. And if you want a face-to-face, we can observe social distancing, we can put a mask on, we can do all that we're required to do, and we can fix up a face-to-face, or a mask-to-mask, probably more accurate. So let me encourage you all. I want to be part of a community of a Gateshead, indeed, that changes wonderfully in its quality of life, so that people feel good about life, that they love life and want to see many good days, that depression and the awful consequence of some depression, which is suicide, that these things decrease and decrease until they're no more within our communities. So I hope that some of the things I've shared may be of some use, at least to you. And if you need to contact us, please do so. Thank you for listening. A very good morning, afternoon, or evening, depending when you're listening. Good night.